Hey, welcome to Haphazard Homestead. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to do a magic trick. I went out and picked a bunch of elephant garlic leaves. I'm going to get all of those leaves to fit in a pint jar. That's less than a half liter in the metric system. And when I get those leaves into that pint jar, they are going to transform into something delicious. Just listen. That's delicious. That is absolutely delicious. So let's get the magic started. It is such an easy trick. In the kitchen, step 1 is to rinse all the leaves and then dry them off really well. Get them good and dry with a towel. The leaves don't have to be perfectly dry, but we don't want any chlorine in the water to interfere with the bacteria that are going to help us out with this magical fermentation process. So you can see they're quite a bit drier. They're not completely dry, but they don't have to be completely dry, but they just shouldn't be just sopping wet. Step 2 is to shred all of the leaves long ways and then short ways. Just like a magician needs skills, this long ways slicing is a good test of knife skills, so watch out and don't get hurt. Whoa, I almost cut myself. A sharp knife is important here. Still slicing away. It helps to have a sharp knife to do this, but it sure is scary. I want this on camera in case I slice off my finger. Alright, I'm almost done. Alright, that's that. So you can see those are all shredded up now, a lot more fine than they were. And then I want to take all this and cut it in about half. So I'm going to go about that size. What we're trying to do is just think about what size I'd like to get out of the jar. Those are all our pieces that we're going to work with. So now we're going to salt that down. Yep, step 3 is to add some salt. I only used 1.5 teaspoons of salt for all of these leaves. The salt needs to have no additives that would affect the bacteria. So no iodized salt. Canning and pickling salt is good, and kosher salt is good. The salt is not being used as a preservative. It's drawing out the water that's naturally in the elephant garlic leaves. I layer the salt and the leaves and then let it sit. I let it sit for an hour or so. Just going to kind of let that sit for a while. I'll be back. Step 4 is to massage these elephant garlic leaves until they change color. This sounds hokey and silly, but it's part of the process. The goal is to work those leaves and draw out the water that's inside the leaves. If you're a hands-on kind of person, this is kind of neat. I'm not trying to bruise or tear the leaves, I'm just massaging them. In this batch of leaves, the whole massaging business took right at 5 minutes start to finish. Then I go away and let it sit for another hour or so. For both times, when I let the leaves sit, the amount of time doesn't have to be exact. It could be 40 minutes, it could be 2.5, 3 hours. This process is nice and flexible that way. My bowls are too small. So what we're trying to do is just bring out the moisture. See how that's all changed color? It's pretty crazy, isn't it? Looks like it's getting there, isn't it? Look how that's really pressed down now. I'm going to go away and leave that again for a while. I'll be back. Step 5 is to pack all the leaves into the jar. And I mean really pack them in tight. They're going to be in there so tight in that jar that the liquid in the leaves will completely cover them up. You can see it really tamps down. This is just a strange process. See that water already coming up through there. It's all the juice, its own juice. Look at that. That's crazy. That water, see that moisture? See that water in there? Now you can see that the juice is way up at the top. Step 6 is to make sure that no air touches these leaves for the next week or two, while the bacteria that are naturally on the leaves work their magic. So, I need to hold those leaves down at least a ½ inch under the liquid. I don't want any metal, like a metal jar lid, to combine with the salt that's in there. That's why I used a wooden spoon in a glass bowl earlier too. Here's the simple way that I do it. I get a glass or another jar, put it on top, and fill it with water to make it heavy enough to hold all those leaves down. That's it. A fermentation airlock system would work fine too, but I've never done that with the elephant garlic leaves. This trick is just too simple. Step 7 is to let the bacteria work their magic. I put my little fermentation tower on a plate because as the bacteria are working, that liquid from the leaves will bubble over the top. I leave the whole thing on my kitchen counter out of the way for at least a week. I went out of town, so this is 10 days later, and it's ready. The color has changed, and the jar has stopped bubbling on its own. If I press down on the glass, I can get more bubbles to come up, so the bacteria are still working a little bit. But it's done. I do check to see if there's ever any mold or if it smells bad, but I've never had any trouble with this process. And then I do a taste test to see how it turned out. Man, that's good. It's a nice smoky flavor. That is really, really good. It doesn't make them any more tender, so you do have to cut them up. Step 8 is to put a lid on it and put it in the refrigerator. So we're just going to put a lid on this. Whoa. So we're just going to put a lid on this. I keep my jar of fermented elephant garlic leaves in the refrigerator. I'm not doing all this for food preservation. I'm doing this for the magical transformation into a whole different, delicious food. I know it keeps for at least a year in the refrigerator, but usually I eat it all way before then. Now you may be thinking, hey, what am I supposed to do with these fermented elephant garlic leaves? Well, you know I eat them straight out of the jar, even though they are pretty chewy. Usually, though, I chop them up really fine. They're great in eggs or in mashed potatoes, but they are really good straight up on top of cheese as part of a snack platter. They're good mixed into a wild salad. They're great to spice up a pan-roasted patty pan squash or mixed in as part of a squash stir-fry. And they're really good in a raw slaw, too, like this one out of grated raw winter squash, raw dandelion greens, and a nice balsamic vinaigrette. So I hope you will think about planting some elephant garlic in a few unused places where they can grow like weeds, and you can use their leaves straight up or fermented too. These fermented elephant garlic leaves are really worth the effort. Well, I hope things are going well at your place. If you like this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. If you have any fermentation tips or use elephant garlic leaves in any way, I'd appreciate hearing about it in the comments below. If this is your first time here at Haphazard Homestead, I hope you subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye. I'm going to be sad when that's gone. I'm going to be so sad when that's gone.